Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Carrie Penny, the happy crafty homemaker, and I'd like to start today's video by wishing you all a very happy new year. I'm a smidge late getting this up and out. I started talking and Pippin came running. I had planned on actually filming this and posting it. I'd planned on filming this actually with the Christmas videos and the end of Vlogmas and stuff, but I ran out of time. But I had planned on posting this actually on the 31st. Instead, here it is the 1st, and I'm just now sitting down to film it. So, first off, I wanted to start with my 2018 goals. I did not start YouTube until August. So I'd actually had 8 months of working towards my 2018 goals before I joined the YouTube community. My goals were very simple. In January last year, I really wanted to work for my stash and start working down my yarn hoard. The goal was to, and not just yarn, but scrapbooking paper and things like that. Any stashable craft supplies, I really wanted to start working those down. I missed a lot of my goals because I did not really flesh those out as much as I should have. I have some random kits that I wanted to use up that I just never got around to. 2018 ended up being a much busier year than I expected. So I had a lot of life changes. I started watching my grandson on a regular basis. So I kind of have lost a lot of my Carrie time, my free time. I can't do a lot of things like coming up to the craft room when he's here because I don't have a kid safe zone in the craft room for him. Everything is kind of hands off, which is very boring for a toddler. So the 2018 goals kind of got derailed and sidetracked by April. However, you know, the goal was to not spend more than $150 on stashable craft products. Excluding and barring anything that I won from the state fair, sales, gifts, things like that. So I actually hit that goal. I spent $232 on stashable craft supplies in 2018, but on top of the $150 I started the year with, I've been given $125 in gift cards. I made between the fair and sales and stuff, like an extra $250. So I actually came out ahead in where I thought I was going to be. So I did succeed in my overall goal. Unfortunately, what that goal did not do is massively decrease my stash. So I still have 2 bins in my workout room that are filled with cake yarns that don't fit on my shelves. I did work down my stash or my scrap stash substantially. I did 2 rainbow blankets. I did start using my scraps more as I was coming up with them. So I didn't add to my scraps so much. I have 2 medium-sized bins. I mean, not like gallon totes, but like they're like 2-gallon maybe. Still filled with scrap, and I have a larger one that's full of my neutral scraps. It's a lot harder to go through my whites, off-whites, and browns, black. So, I mean, I did succeed overall. And then when I joined, well, so quick story time. Back in 2017, my husband really started trying to get me to do a YouTube channel. And I didn't think anybody would be very interested in what I had to say. So I really didn't feel comfortable with it. So I started with the written blog, The Happy Crafty Homemaker, which since August I have been heavily neglecting because I have been posting videos instead of written blog posts. And part of that goes along with watching Tater Tot because it's very hard to sit down and dedicate that amount of time of writing on top of my other activities. There is a huge misconception that homemakers don't do anything, especially if they don't have children of their own. I do almost everything around the house. Like, my husband helps out when he's home, but, you know, I handle all the finances, cooking, cleaning, shopping. I take care of 95% of the birthday and Christmas shopping we do. I also run a charity. I volunteer with our church. I volunteer with a couple of different organizations. So, I mean, I actually have a very full schedule on top of like your normal housekeeper, homemaking kind of duties and responsibilities. So having that added compression of watching my grandson actually made it a lot harder for me to sit down and dedicate the time I needed to write what I wanted to say. As time consuming as making videos is, the active time that I need to be left alone is actually substantially shorter, because the active time where I need to be left alone is the time where I'm filming. I can edit, splice, things like that in pieces over the course of a day or two, or, you know, I don't need that dedicated time. So my original accountability plan failed by August, and I needed something else to do. My husband went on a business trip to Portland, Oregon, and I joined him for that. And that ended up really being my last blog post, was a couple of posts talking about that and the drama of getting my luggage back home. So I decided to start a YouTube channel. I knew it was becoming harder and harder for me to write what I wanted to say, share the projects I was working on, show the progress as my craft room changed over the course of 2018. And I needed a new format that I could share with. So I came here. And you guys, for some reason, watch my videos. And I am absolutely ecstatic that I'm able to share directly with you guys. So I actually am having more fun filming. It's less time consuming for me, and I have more ability to share with you guys my accountability goals. So with that also came the decision that I wanted to use 25 pounds of yarn between August and December, or well, January 1st. And I'm happy to report I succeeded. So some other time I will actually share my notebook of how I keep accountability, but my daughter-in-law got me an ARC notebook for Christmas 2017, and I used it to start setting up. I have pages in there that are dedicated to the paper crafts I want to complete, the crochet projects I want to complete, the knitting projects I want to complete, I need to use these supplies up and get rid of them projects. And I have a lot of those. And I'm not doing very good at getting back to those. Just because my goals have shifted and changed since I started. So in my D-stash, I've mentioned it before, my D-stash projects for 2018. There are a number of these on here that are, like, I did 12 donation hats here. I did, 17 red hats there. So the number of completed projects for 2018 is 133, but inside of some of those are multiples. As the year progressed, I actually started listing individual things, with the exception of cards, where I'd still list. I made 10 cards. But 133 projects, varying from sewing projects, knitting projects, crochet projects, paper crafting projects. I made my first ever album from scratch. I haven't filled it with pictures or anything like that. I don't have any great pictures from Halloween's past, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to use my Halloween journal or Halloween photo album, but it's out there. I made an album using cardstock and recycled corrugated cardboard, and I actually really like the way it looks. I was kind of surprised. Also, Cricut projects where I did iron-ons or making labels for things. There's a wide variety of things that are included in that 133 projects. As far as my yarn goal from August to the new year, I finished my gray scarf. I shared it on Instagram already, that matches my Gilmore Girls inspired gray hat with the furry pom-pom. And that took me to 410.06 ounces, even before I started my goals for 2019. So I did it. I actually used 25 pounds of yarn between August 28th and the new year. So I essentially had 4 months to use 25 pounds of yarn. I've been pretty much dedicated solely to yarn projects because of that goal, and I really wanted to hit it. And I'm still nowhere near decreasing my stash as much as I'd want to. So that's all I did for 2018. I kept my goals very simple. I had started new platforms for sharing and trying to keep my accountability going. So now we come to my goal list for 2019. Using 25 pounds of yarn in 4 months was incredibly hard. If it hadn't been for the fact that I did 2 different blanket projects, I probably couldn't have made it in just my hats and scarves and shawls and things that I normally make as donation items. So for 2019, the entire year, I'd like to use 50 pounds of yarn, which reduces by half what I was doing. There is a slide for this, though. One of my other goals is to use 50 pounds in other materials. So fabric, perler beads, polymer clay, scrapbooking paper, things like that. I would like to use another 50 pounds of crafts. If I far exceed the 50-pound goal, and with paper crafting, that could happen very quickly, I can slide between the two. So it's more, I want to use 100 pounds of my craft supplies that are existent in my stash. But I'd ideally like to split it 50 pounds of yarn, 50 pounds of other. But if I, in April, end up scrapbooking 500 pages and making, 200 cards, I do want to be able to find a way to classify that. No, I didn't do any knitting and crocheting that month, but at least I'm still using what I already have. I want to use up my kitchen cotton. I've mentioned on here before, I'm not a huge fan of kitchen cotton. I don't use it very much. It's taking up room in my stash that I could be hoarding other things that I do use, or opening up space in my stash to eliminate some of my storage items. So I do want to use up my kitchen cotton, and in helping me with that goal, I am going to knit and crochet my way through the 52 Dishcloths of 2014 book from Knit Picks. I think it's 2014. I don't have it written down here. But I have one of their 52 Dishcloths of the year of, and I think it's 2014's book. So I've actually already started on this goal. I was in between projects for sitting on the sofa, mindless knitting and crochet the other night. Now, I've already finished the first one and started the second one. Both of them are knitted. And I went ahead, and my second one ended up being knitted because I was sitting there already knitting. But I'd like to alternate to keep it interesting for myself between the knitted ones and the crocheted ones. So I will probably actually, before I sit down on the sofa this evening after dinner or before dinner, I will go ahead and grab the hook that I need for the first and second crocheted dishcloths out of that book. I do highly recommend the Knit Picks collection books. I know a lot of the patterns are available for free on the Knit Picks blog and on their website, but having a collection book like that where you can sit down and just plow through, find your favorite patterns of, especially if you're just starting. I know I've talked to, or message back and forth through YouTube with Karen of Happiness is Homemade. Hi! But when it comes to dishcloths, I do find knitting them is a little bit more pleasurable, but she was working on like the hot pads, like what I did with the Christmas yarn and the yarn I got from the Mary Maxim mystery box that I got back in the summer. Those are single crochet and they are very hard on your hands, but the fabric you get for a hot pad is absolutely phenomenal. So having something like that where you can try multiple stitch patterns out with a yarn that I really don't like actually kind of helps me stay engaged in that. I left my bag downstairs, but I will try to get a picture. I actually took everything off my shelf, restocked that bin with something different. Sock yarn. Sock yarn. Because I have a lot of sock yarn hiding. Yeah, so I'll try to get a picture. And that way you could see what my starting point is. I do have at least one cone and one extra large skein that are not included in that picture. One is in my bedroom and I'm working on another hot pad with it. And one is in a bag and also working on another hot pad with it. So cotton I'd like to get used up. And then from then on, I'd like to just buy as needed. When I have all my dishcloths made from the 2014 book, if I still have cotton left over, I will make decisions as to whether or not to start the book again or maybe get a different year's books. There are a couple of different crochet alongs that have happened in the past where there are still blog posts where a pattern designer, they've done like collaborative things where they release, 15 in a set, that are available for free or what have you. But I don't know how far this is going to go. I had a lot more kitchen cotton than I thought I had. And in that, I did buy 2 balls of Knit Picks Dishy to try out to see if I liked it better than like Peaches and Cream and Sugar and Cream. And I did in my Premier mystery box get 3 balls of their kitchen cotton. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see. I'll have to play that by ear as to what I do with anything left over after the 52. But I'd like to use all that cotton and do the entire book of 52 dishcloths. And from there, I'll gift them. I've got a couple people listed out that would be appreciative of handmade dishcloths and washcloths. I would like to do 52 donation hats this year. Men's and women's specifically, but I do make hats for Little Hats, Big Hearts. I have done in the past some kids cancer hats and adult hair loss. So yeah, I'd like to do 52, which, is the equivalent of doing one a week. I will probably do the same thing I'm doing with the dishcloths, where even though technically it's a one a week project, there will probably be weeks where I make 3 or 4. But I'm going to count all hats, not just all adult hats or all baby hats. So I think 52 is reasonable, especially with the number of true red scraps I end up with, to do Little Hats, Big Hearts. I think last year I did 40 before the spring. Because I started the year off, I want to use all my scraps. And I went through, the first project I did was taking all my true red scraps, which is why when you look at my rainbow blankets on my blog, red is actually one of the smaller color zones I have for those, where you actually see true red. There are pinks and there are burgundies, there are rustish red colors, but like candy cane red is nowhere to be seen on most of those, because I used all the soft scrap I had to make baby hats. I'd like to do 6 pairs of socks. I know I'm very prone to postponing doing the heel turns. So I'd like to encourage myself to actually finish socks. And this includes shorties, full length, worsted, any variety of sock I feel like doing. It's up to my discretion as to what I do. But I think 6 pairs for the whole year is very reasonable for myself and how I work on projects. I would like to do 6 blankets. That includes baby, lapgan, full-sized, but 6 total. I'm not splitting them up, knitted or crocheted, scrapped or not scrapped. Finishing my Santa hats for the family. And this is one, I bought the yarn to make these Santa hats. I've been here 2 years. I had it for at least a year. So, 3 to 4 years now. I've been meaning to make Santa hats because the ones we buy are always super itchy on our foreheads on Christmas Day. I got one done in 2018. So I would like to finish the other. I need at minimum 4 more hats. 1 for each of my stepsons, 1 for my husband, and 1 for my middle stepson's girlfriend. So I'd like to have, like, the whole family have Santa Claus hats, at least the adults. The grandchildren, it's a little bit harder to get them into festive wear anyway. Neither one of them particularly enjoy wearing hats, so I'm not so much worried about the grandkids. But I do have green boa, and my original intention had been for the children to always have elf hats instead of Santa hats. So we'll see how 2019 progresses with them wanting to wear hats. Tater Tot is generally pretty game at we're being festive and doing weird things, but Nilla Wafer, not quite so much. I would like to end 2019 with no scrap. So this, I have a couple scrap projects that I haven't shared on my blog yet, or vlog, sorry. I've shared them on my blog. I haven't shared them on my vlog or my podcast channel. But the year we moved, one of the first things I packed was actually my craft room, because I had full control over that room and could just go ahead and start packing. I knew my husband was going to be overly busy that spring, so he wasn't going to have a whole lot of time to help me once the move got engaged. So as much as I could do while we were in the process of shopping for a house, the better I knew we would be come transition time. So the first thing I did that year was pack up my craft room. And the only thing I left out were my Premier Sweet Rolls. And the goal was that year during Lent was to knit 1 shawl or crochet 1 shawl a week, which I actually succeeded at doing while moving. I was so proud of myself that it was the last week is the only week I did not get the shawl complete. And that's because that's the week we moved. We moved Easter week. So that was the only one I didn't complete technically in Lent or the week of, but I did actually complete a shawl a week. And I immediately took the scraps for that and started making granny hexagons. And that way I wasn't moving scrap balls of yarn, and I had everything on a complete loop. So the goal was to make a blanket that would fit my king size bed. And I haven't started joining anything, but I have like 380 done. I have another 20 to make. And I've been using active scraps for the last 3 years. Or 2 years, excuse me. So anything that I'm finishing, anything I started and finished since then has been what made up those hexagons. I used my other scrap to make the rainbow blankets last year. I still have, like I said, 2 balls. One's cool toned, one's warm toned. I'm not sure what to do with those. And I do have some scrap that was created as I went with donation hats in a separate bin that is specifically a bin of things to make donation hats with. But I would like to end 2019 no scrap. I do have a bulky corner to corner blanket that I've been slowly working on. With the 25-pound challenge, a lot of those things did get put on hold because they weren't projects I was going to be able to complete and weigh for the 25-pound challenge. So in 2019, I would like to continue working on those projects, at least get my hexagon blanket finished, because I do have enough yarn to complete that. I have to make a decision on my joining method and bordering. I think I'm just going to do a single crochet border, but it's going to be a scrappy hexie blanket that's going to take me forever to sew together. Forever. And I've mentioned this one before, I would like to have all of my yarn fitting into 2 of the 4x4 cubes that I already have. Mine are smaller. There are the ones from Recollections that they used to sell. I think they still have the brown wood ones. I prefer, if you're trying to buy things, I do prefer the IKEA ones. I like the size of the bins better. I like the construction of the bins better, but I have what I have, and I want to use what I have in preparation for, hopefully in 2020, we will redo the craft room. The carpet really needs to be pulled up in here. As it is a craft room, I would like to have a non-carpeted craft room. So anything I can do to reduce what I have in this room before we have to take everything out, redo all the flooring, and bring things back in with intentions to use them. Anything that helps with that. 50 pounds in other crafts, and finishing my granny hexie blanket. So those are my crafty goals for 2019. I feel like I'm a little overwhelmed. I have finished my first project of 2019. I finished it at 12:30 last night, and we will discuss that in the show and tell that will be filmed either after lunch today or sometime tomorrow, but I'm calling it the No Bad Shawl. Wonder why. So I'm already at 9 ounces for the year. I will probably actually write this out as grams. I don't know. Pounds is just easier for me to think in, because I can think in groups of 16. Just because I'm used to weighing foods and things like that. Baking ingredients. So I'm used to actually thinking in ounces, not grams. But I am getting better at weighing out the pros and cons in grams versus ounces when it comes to yarn. So I may flip back and forth, but I really think ounces and pounds is an easier way for me to think of it. Sorry, non-Americans. But I will, at some point in the next couple weeks, I would like to come through and film. I've shown you all my craft room while I was cleaning it and getting my new shelf put up and stuff. But I'd like to come back and actually show you guys what I'm talking about when I say like working through things. I know a number of you guys are interested in paper crafting or inspirational quotes or the mantras and reminders that you can keep around your home. And I will probably offer up some of my 12x12 scrapbook papers that are actually meant for home decor. I have a couple through my house already that I use. If you remember the We Wish You a Merry Christmas that I had, it's actually one of the thumbnails from Vlogmas, I believe. That's just a piece of scrapbook paper in a 12x12 frame. I have one that I keep in my guest room, and I rotate out what's in them by season, by... Am I sick of looking at this? I will put one up in the craft room. I've got to figure out... I have one more rack that I need to get hung over here for my project bags. And from there, I need to start, like, I need to go through my Rascod carts, get them cleaned out. I need to get my arms around a couple of other cleaning things. But for the most part, you know, I'm actually starting 2019 with a clean slate. I mean, I did a lot of my preparations earlier in November. So we'll see how it goes. But I will be using... So the title of 2018 was The Great Stash Down of 2018. I'm going to continue using The Great Stash Down, but this will be The Great Stash Down of 2019. I will be using the hashtag Great Stash Down of 2019, I believe, but I will come back to that. Check the description bar because I do need to double check nobody's taking my plans. Because in a couple of the Crafty groups, the Great Stash Down of 2018 became, like, people wanted to start using that, and it's like, that's fine, you can use it as a participant in my 2018 goals, but the Great Stash Down is my, that's my blogging thing. That's what I'm using. So as long as nobody else is using that hashtag on Instagram, I will try to use that as a tag. When in doubt, I do want to let you know, I do use the hashtag Happy Crafty Homemaker, obviously all one word. And that's still, while it's not my channel name on YouTube because things, that is still my brand. And I am still hoping to use my written blog more, probably more for sharing, recipes and patterns, not so much as a, regular cycle blog, like I had been using it at the beginning of the year. So I hope you guys help keep me accountable this year because I'm a little overwhelmed. I can't wait to see what you guys are working with and what your guys' goals are. And I hope you guys have a wonderful new year. May you be blessed with love, joy, and peace in your heart and in the world around you. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Happy New Year's, everybody.